fond memories growing up at a lake house? Maybe your family had a lake house that you used to spend summers at, or friends or somebody that you used to go visit. Lake houses usually bring up a lot of wonderful memories for people, whether it was a couple of weeks or maybe your family had a house that you went to and was able to spend long periods of time at the lake, and maybe the whole summer. Maybe you went to a summer camp. So lake houses are really a dream for so many people, but it is a dream that is completely obtainable. There are lake houses and lake communities that are driving distance of New York City. When I say that, I'm talking about 30 miles, 35 miles, and even 40 miles away. What that translates to with traffic is anywhere from an hour and a half, up to maybe 2 hours. Now, of course, there's the Adirondacks and the Catskills that you could get out of the city, but then we really do start talking about a little bit of a longer commuting time. So I'm really talking about the lake houses in northern New Jersey that you could leave New York City or your place of business and then head out to the lake house and be able to get there in a short amount of time. In many of these cases, there's actual New Jersey Transit that will bring you to your lake house, whether it is in the form of a New Jersey Transit bus. There are some trains that go into like the town of Denville, for example. Denville has a train station. So my name is Jennifer.Ellis. I am a real estate broker associate with Coldwell Banker, and my specialty is northern New Jersey lake houses and lake communities. My family, I was, fortunate enough that my grandmother bought a house on beautiful Glen Lake in Bloomingdale, New Jersey in 1964. And we were able to spend many of our summers here as I was a child and come up for the summer and enjoy. It was always, we're going up to the lake. And it was just a really magical, wonderful experience. I knew that when I grew up, I wanted to live at the lake, and I have been very, very lucky that I have been able to call Glen Lake in Bloomingdale, New Jersey. It's going to be 24 years in December. And what I have done is made a career of helping other people realize their dreams and finding their lake houses. Excuse me. Lake communities mean so many different things to so many different people. Really depends on what you enjoy doing. I've said this in some other videos that you could check out on how I recommend figure out what you would like to do at your lake house and then find the lake that fits your needs exactly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through a list of towns that are about 30, 35 miles out of New York City and tell you a little bit about each one of the lakes. In a future video, I will do it with a map and I will show you where each one of these lakes is. Let's start with Bloomingdale, New Jersey. Bloomingdale, New Jersey is in Passaic County. It's at the top of Passaic County. It's a lovely borough. New Jersey Transit buses do actually come right into the main street of Bloomingdale. In Bloomingdale, there are 3 private lake communities. There is Camphy Lake, Glen Lake, and Lake Iosco. Each one of these lake communities offers something very unique and wonderful. One of the things that these 3 lake communities have in common is that they didn't develop the land around the lake. Let me explain what I mean by that. The lake is in the center, and then there's houses that are all along the lake. So there's all these lakefront houses. But behind the lakefront houses, so you've got your lake in the middle, and then you've got the houses around them. But then on the other side, we'll say the other side of the street, or behind these homes in this lake community, is forest. There's not more houses and more houses and more houses. In these 3 lakes, Lake Iosco, Camphy Lake, and Glen Lake, in all 3 cases, what is adjacent to these lakes is Northern Green State Forest, Wanacue Watershed. On one side of Camphy Lake is actually the Star Lake campus, which is owned by the Salvation Army, and it's a beautiful camp with lakes. And then there's like a whole facility there. So on one side of Camphy is Northern Green, and then the other side of Camphy Lake is the Star Lake complex, but it's down off of the hill. The water from Camphy Lake actually goes down into the Star Lake lakes. On the other side is Glenwild Lake. The water comes out of Northern Green State Forest. Glenwild Lake is both spring fed and then fed by this inlet stream. And then the lake, you've got Glenwild, and then Glenwild's water goes out the outlet stream to Lake Iosco and then into Morris Lakes. Oh, I forgot Morris Lakes. Morris Lakes is also in Bloomingdale. Morris Lakes is a little different. Morris Lakes is two lovely little lakes with a clubhouse and a beach, and it is also adjacent to the forest and Lake Iosco, Wanacue watershed, but that's a little bit more developed on Morris Lakes. So you have the lake, the houses, and then across the street, you do have more houses, and there's a nice little neighborhood, which is absolutely lovely. It's a really nice place. You could go for a walk. There's hills, and there are the two different lakes. So that's the borough of Bloomingdale, New Jersey. Morris Lakes, which is two smaller lakes, Lake Iosco, Campy Lake, and Glenwild Lake. These are all private lake communities. You can't boat or fish or anything on them unless you are there with a resident. These lakes, I think all of them are, I don't know if all of them are stocked. I know Glenwild is stocked and Morris Lake is stocked, but very protective. People are very protective of their lakes. And actually, when you drive through a lake community, you could tell everyone will give you a little wave because everybody is watching out for everybody else. So let's head over. This is also Passaic County. I'm going to switch towns on you now. We're going to go to Ringwood, New Jersey now. Ringwood, New Jersey is another beautiful town, lots of forests. The developments that they do have there is a lot of homes on bigger lots, lots of trees. Ringwood has some absolutely spectacular parks. Ringwood Manor, Skylands, there's a botanical garden in Ringwood. So Ringwood's got a ton to offer in addition to some more private lake communities. Ringwood has Cupsaw Lake, which has a very active lake community. Again, just beautiful. Cupsaw does have the lake, the homes on the lake, and then the land around it are developed with more homes. So if you're looking on Cupsaw Lake in Ringwood, you could get a home that is directly on the water, or you could get a lake house that is off the lake. So you still are a member of Cupsaw Lake, and you could use the clubhouse and you could use the water, but your house isn't exactly like, you don't have your own dock right in front of your lake, right in front of your lake house. Then there's Skyline Lake in Ringwood, and then there's Erskine Lakes, which is two lakes in Ringwood. Erskine Lakes has a swim team, they sail, very active. All three of these lake communities are very active and just really wonderful places to live. Ringwood is also a little bit closer to Bergen County, so you could hop over Skyline Drive, get to 208. These are some major highways that I'm naming, and be able to zip right into New York City. When you're in these lake communities, you definitely have the feeling of being completely away from it all. You would in no way feel that you are that close to Bergen County, you know, the Paramus and the malls and the highways. You really have a very nice vacation feel. Moving on to West Milford. West Milford is also Passaic County. West Milford is a very large town in New Jersey. West Milford has some of the big lakes. We've got Greenwood Lake, which actually spans from New Jersey into New York. Greenwood Lake is a public lake, meaning there are marinas on Greenwood Lake. You could rent a boat on Greenwood Lake. You could go out, you could jet ski, you could go fishing, you could have a great time. There are some restaurants on Greenwood Lake. There's also smaller sections of Greenwood Lake. So Greenwood Lake is this massive public lake, but if you are looking for more of a community feel, Greenwood Lake has smaller communities within the bigger lake community. And a really great example of that is the Awasting community on Greenwood Lake. Awasting has a swim team. They recently renovated their clubhouse. They've got tennis courts. I'm sure that they are playing pickleball there by now. There's a beautiful lakefront pavilion. Glenwild Lake, where I live, our swim team actually swims against Awasting. So I've spent many times on the Awasting beach while the Small Lakes League, which is the smaller, some of the smaller lakes get together, and our kids swim against their camps swim against each other. And Awasting, so Awasting is a really nice mix that you've got the big lake with the restaurants and the fast boats and jet skis, and I guess you could go water skiing. But then at the same time, you've got the feel of the smaller lake community. Owasting is another one of the communities that you've got the houses along the shore of Greenwood Lake, but then up on, there's a development with all the houses. I know a lot of people use golf carts to get to the beach, which is fun to be able to drive your golf cart around. So West Milford, I'm not going to be able to touch on all of the lakes in West Milford. There's just too many of them. If there is a lake that you are curious about, please reach out and I will, if I haven't heard of it, which I probably have, but if I don't, I will get all the facts and be able to tell you all about it. Another really fantastic lake community in West Milford is High Crest Lake. High Crest Lake is another one of the lakes that participates in the Small Lakes League for swimming. So Owasting, Glenwild, and High Crest all swim against each other. They also have a newer, beautiful clubhouse, sand beach, lifeguard, playground, and they've got a community, which means they have events and things together. So that's High Crest and West Milford. West Milford also has Upper Greenwood Lake, Pine Cliff Lake, Kitchell Lake, just to name a few. And as I said, I'm not going to be able to get all of them. One of the nice features of West Milford is there are some smaller lakes that are still close by, really, right over the hill. The bus does go into West Milford. Gordon Lakes, Lindy Lake, Mount Glen Lake. These are just lovely little lake communities with little beaches. Some of them have pavilions. Some of them actually have clubhouses with events. I know Lindy Lake did a polar swim this year. Mount Glen Lake has a beautiful little beach with a picnic pavilion and volleyball. So these communities have houses that are right on the water. And then they also have the houses like adjacent that you could then go down to the beach, which means that there's a varying degree of price points. If you're talking about a home on Greenwood Lake compared to a home off the lake in Mount Glen, a lake house can be can be a lot more affordable than you may think. So that's just touching on the West Milford Lakes. We also have the Highland Lakes community in Vernon. Highland Lakes is a whole series of lakes with multiple clubhouses and beaches. Highland Lakes it's got one of those feels to it. There's a lot of these darling log cabins. It's very rustic. There's a lot of beaches. Highland Lakes is not big motorboat lakes. So it's very much like the lake that you remember when you were growing up. Again, these little log cabins, the little tiny lake streets, canoe rides and kayaks and sailboats and community events. So Highland Lakes is another really fantastic option. New Jersey also has Lake Mohawk, which is a beautiful lake with a beautiful little town in Sparta where you could get ice cream. There's the club, the Lake Mohawk Country Club. There's water skiing on Lake Mohawk. Lake Mohawk is very, very beautiful. There is an architect that you'll see over and over again called the Crane. And you'll see in some of the listing descriptions that this is an original Crane house. And these homes it's just what you think of Lake House. And then when you see these homes. So there's so many different lakes in New Jersey that there really is something for everybody. The different lakes, what I recommend is getting out to go see the lakes. Give me a call. Say, I'm interested in going kayaking, and I would like a place that has a central meeting place. What I recommend is going and taking a look, getting in the houses, and seeing if it's what you're interested in. Denville's got some really beautiful lakes. There's a train station that comes right into town, and then there is a main street with lots of restaurants and shops. There's a Starbucks, there's a yogurt place, there's just some really, really nice things. But the highway is right there, so it's going to be a little bit noisier than if you're up in Vernon. So each one of these areas, each one of them is wonderful, but there's always going to be pros and cons to each one. If you have any thoughts on a lake house at all, drop a note below. Let me know if you're interested in me going into more detail on any of these lakes. This was really just the tip of the iceberg. I have a ton of notes here. I'm sure that I forgot a bunch of them because there's so many lakes and each one of them has something to offer. And then there's lakes up in Sussex County getting a little bit farther away. But again, all of these are a distance from New York City that if you left work on, just to be traditional, if you did a 9 to 5, you're going to hit some traffic, but you could realistically be at your lake house and be all settled in and have a nice dinner. So I'm Jennifer.Ellis, broker associate with Coldwell Banker. I'm a Northern New Jersey lakefront home specialist, and I would love to help you find your lakefront dream home. If you'd like me to spotlight any lakes in New Jersey, if you have any questions on any of the inventory on the lake houses in New Jersey or price points, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you would like to subscribe.